Hey friends, it's Corey from Hey Let's Make Stuff, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 quick sublimation tips to help you make your sublimation projects easier. If you're watching the live premiere, thank you for joining me. Many of you may have come over from Angie Holden's channel. She also shared 5 tips for saving money with sublimation, so make sure if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that over on her channel. Angie and I both wanted to share something that we are running together. It's called Sublimation Camp. And if you haven't heard about Sublimation Camp before, this is our 2nd year. And basically it's a 3-day online event where you can learn basically everything you need to know about sublimation. This year we're back and it's better than ever. Angie and I together are teaching 9 beginner courses. And those beginner courses are available all 3 days of the summit. So that means that if you're just starting out, you will have access to these beginner classes any of the days you can attend. We also have dozens of new classes from our speakers. If you attended last year, we have some returning favorites like Jennifer Maker and Abby Kirsten and Courtney Brickner. And then this year we've added a bunch of new faces as well, including Delonda from Crafting with Delonda. You probably know who that is. DIY Alex and Ann Pham from The Useless Crafter, plus so many more. I'll give you more information about joining Sublimation Camp at the end of this video, but in the meantime, let's go ahead and look at these sublimation tips. The first tip is to decal the edge of your transfer. Now, decal is not a word we use very often, but basically it means to tear. So instead of cutting around the image with scissors, we're gonna go ahead and tear around the image instead. Sometimes you get unsightly press marks when you press a transfer that's been cut out, so tearing the edge of our transfer can help prevent that. See, so basically you just wanna carefully rip all the way around without ripping your transfer, just like this. There we go. Just like that. Wow, I'm really impressed with my circle here. So you can see here how the edge is all torn and you're not gonna get that same press mark that you would if we used scissors. So before I add my transfer, I'm going to do a few things. So the first thing I'm gonna do is lint roll my garment. So this helps remove any dust and debris that you don't want to sublimate onto your garment. The second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pre-press, just for 15 seconds or so. Now I have a nice flat surface to work from. I'm also gonna use a pressing pillow. This isn't one of the tips, but it does help. It basically just raises up your pressing surface so that you're not dealing with the seams when you press. So tip number 2 is to use a heat-resistant adhesive spray. So I'm doing this instead of tape. I'm using this from Conde. It's not the only one out there. It's the one I have and I like it a lot. So basically I'm going to hold my transfer up here and then I'm gonna just give it a little bit of a spray, just like this. And then I don't have to use heat-resistant tape. Then you can place your image straight down on your onesie. It's a little hard to see because of the tearing, so you just wanna make sure that you have your image there, and then you wanna make sure the pillow is underneath your image here too. This is just so much faster than using heat-resistant tape. I love this spray. I use it on a lot of things. It doesn't work on everything, but it works on most things, and it's just so much faster than tape. All right, tip number 3 is to use butcher paper that is in sheets instead of on rolls. So I have this roll here, and honestly, I just do not like it. First of all, you have to cut it out, which is annoying, right? So we got the cutting here, just like this. And then you're dealing with this squirrely piece of butcher paper that often curls. It's really hard to get flat. I don't know, I just find this very annoying. I don't like it. So instead, buy butcher paper in sheets. So this is what it looks like. These are basically designed to wrap like deli meats at the butcher, right? It's butcher paper, but this is so much easier. Look, it doesn't go flying or anything. It's just so much easier to buy it in sheets. It's not any more expensive. I just find this so much easier than dealing with cutting butcher paper off the roll. Now let's go ahead and press our project. I have my Easy Press 3 set at 385 degrees for 40 seconds. This is what the Cricut Heat Guide says for infusible ink for this particular project. Seems to work for sublimation as well. So let's go ahead and press. For most projects, when you make them, you do want to let them sit a little bit before you go and take the transfer off. This is because it's still very hot, which means the ink is still in that sublimation state. And if for some reason you shift your transfer or you move it a little bit, you can get blurred edges or ghosting, and you definitely don't want that. So let this cool for a few minutes and then remove your butcher paper in your transfer. All right, this has been cooling for a few minutes, so let's go ahead and remove the butcher paper and then remove our image, which will just peel back just like this. Ah! It's so cute. I love it so much. I took out the pad and you can see here that there are absolutely no press marks because we deckled the edge of our transfer. And you'll see that there's no residue from the spray. I just love these 3 tricks for these types of projects. They just make things so much easier and your final project is better. My final 2 tips have to do with making projects in a convection oven. So I have my J-Trans convection oven here. I have a review of this that I can link to, and we're going to be using this tumbler as an example. So I've already printed out and cut out my transfer here, and I have it wrapped around my tumbler. And you can see here that I have pieces of tape going down the side, and then I've added this piece of tape at the top. So tip number 4 is going to help us minimize the amount of ghosting at the top and bottom of our tumbler. So I'm gonna set this here for a minute, and I'm going to take a large piece of tape here, a little bit longer than that, just like this. I'm gonna turn my mug over. I've already taped the top edge, and this is the bottom edge. So I like to find where my seam is, and then I put my tape like this, and I wrap it around like this, just like this. And then I use my thumbs to press all the way down. You want to get your transfer really pressed into that curve here, just like this. All the way down, just like this. And I have like a very, very small spot here, so I am going to add another piece of tape. I don't want to miss any spots here, just like that. So you can press as hard as you want with your thumbs here, but tip number 4 here is to roll the edges of the top and the bottom of the tumbler on your desk. So you can do this directly on the wood, but I prefer a cutting mat. If you actually can see the surface of this desk, it has tons of roll marks. So you will actually imprint your desk if you do it any other way. But if you roll that edge really into the cutting mat here, you can see that it really starts to hug the bottom and the top of the tumbler in a way that you just cannot do with your thumbs, or at least I can't do it with my thumbs. So you just want to keep rolling, rolling, rolling. And then you may spend a couple minutes on this, but it is worth it because you do not want to ruin your blank. All right, that's starting to look really good to me. You can see places where you might need to roll a little bit more, like right here. Just really get in there, all the angles to get it pressed in. That looks much better. I'm also gonna do the same with the top. The top is not generally quite as bad as the bottom, but really depends on your image. This image is kind of quite light at the top, so it probably doesn't matter quite as much on this image. Like right here, it's looking a little loose, so I think I'm gonna put an extra piece of tape there. We just don't want any of that to be a problem. So just go around and make sure everything looks really solid. I also then like to add one long strip of tape to my tumbler here down the side, just like this. And then I get in with my thumbnail here. You can use a tool as well to really press down that seam. So tip number 4 was rolling the edges on the desk. Tip number 5 is that I don't think you need a heat gun to pre-shrink this. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my tumbler here in the shrink wrap, just like this. Now, most other tutorials will have you basically pre-shrink this shrink wrap with a heat gun. You'll wear your heat-resistant gloves and you'll sort of shrink the shrink wrap. I just don't think it's necessary. I'm gonna go ahead and pop around and put this in the oven and film it so that you can see just how fast this shrinks up in the oven. The 1 second it's in there shrinking, it's so much faster than sitting here and shrinking the whole thing and risking burning myself. It shrinks so fast in the oven, and I don't think you need that heat gun. All right, I'm gonna open my oven up here and I'm gonna put it in, and I just want you to watch how quickly this shrinks up in the oven. There we go. Less than 2 seconds. It's so fast. My tumbler's gonna bake for about 6 minutes. I have it set to 195 Celsius because this oven only works in Celsius. Halfway through, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. You might also notice that I have my Nomex pad in there. So that's another little bonus tip. If you're finding that when you're putting things in your sublimation oven, that the shrink wrap is either sticking to the rack or you're getting hot spots where the color looks different because of the way that your tumbler or your other project is sitting on the rack, a Nomex pad is a great solution. So it's basically a thick piece of felt that really distributes the heat evenly. You do need to flip your tumbler halfway through because it won't get quite as hot as the rest of the air inside the oven. So it is a good solution if you find that your shrink wrap is sticking to the rack. All right, so I pulled this out of the oven, and tip number 5.5 is to remove the shrink wrap right away. It is just so much easier to remove when it is hot than when it is cold. So get it off there while it is hot. It's not a glamorous process. All right, get that shrink wrap off. Truly, it's so much harder to remove when it's cold. And then again, I'm gonna let this cool. Because this is metal, it's gonna take a lot longer to cool than the onesie we did. So I'll come back when it's cool and we will reveal our final project. All right, I let it cool and it turned out absolutely perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip to the overhead camera here, and there is absolutely not 1 ounce of ghosting on the bottom of this thing. I don't know if you can see this, but that bottom is perfect. The top is perfect as well. It's a little bit lighter, so it's hard to tell. And then look at this seam. Absolutely perfect. There is no white space, there's no blowout or anything. It looks perfect. I hope you found those 5 tips helpful. There were a lot of other little tips thrown in there as well. If you want to learn more about sublimation, or if you want more hacks and tips like this, join us for Sublimation Camp. Angie and I are super stoked for this year's event, and we would love to have you join us. You can get your free pass for Sublimation Camp by going to sublimationcamp.com. I will also link that in the description. You can go there and get your free ticket. The event runs from May 4th to May 6th. It's Thursday through Saturday. You can block off some time on your calendar. If for some reason you can't make the event, or if you want year-long access to the event, we have an all-access pass as well available, which once you sign up for the free ticket, you'll be offered that. You don't have to do it if you don't want. If you can make the free thing, great. But if you want that year-long access to give yourself more time to take all of the classes, plus you'll get more than $500 in bonuses, go ahead and pick up that all-access pass. We also have more than $4,600 in prizes that you can win, and you don't need a paid ticket to do that. You can just come and enter those on the free ticket. We have printers and heat presses and all sorts of fun things. Jennifer Maker has added a bunch of things. So hop on over and get your free ticket and sign up so you can enter to win all of our prizes. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I do all sorts of sublimation, Cricut, and laser crafts here. If you'd like, hit that subscribe button. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like. I'll see you next week.